public hearing on Monday, December 21st, 2020. This is concerning the sale of property known as 65 Walnut Street in Rocky Hill, 06067, map ID 1805401, volume 670, page 203 of the assessor's account number 003914. So the public hearing is now officially commencing at 7 p.m. I will move into public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov, and you will be provided with a link to attend the Zoom remote meeting and instructions on how you will participate. And we actually had some folks take advantage of that. So if you give me a minute, I'm going to pull that up on my email. So we have a request from residents Emir Redzik and Adem Redzik of 61/63 Walnut Street. They are joining us and they say this: I am the owner of the property next to this property and have the following questions. What are the town's intentions with this property? Is there a buyer already? And what are their intentions with this property? Is the town still accepting offers for this property? And let's see. And that was all that I have in my email. And do we have folks who are waiting? Participants. I don't know that we have folks in the galley waiting. I don't see any.
On that list that John gave you, there's a second person listed, and he is on our panelist screen. This is an opportunity if he wants to speak about the sale of 65 Walnut.
Okay, so Zach Rislow of 75 Walnut Road, if you are available and wish to identify yourself to speak, you may certainly do so at this time.
Looks like he might be on mute.
Mm-hmm. Zach, do you want to enter us a chat whether you would like to participate or whether you're just attending before we move forward? And you are on mute.
If you would like, I could just briefly respond to those 3 questions that Ray sent to him.
Sure.
The town is no longer accepting bids. The town advertised the property back in March of 2020 with a closing date of March 18th, 2020. The town currently has a purchase and sale agreement with the high bidder who has expressed their interest to build a house.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to keep our public hearing open for a set period of time, John?
Generally, when you run out of public comment, you adjourn the meeting.
And I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Well, that concludes our public hearing. We will now move into our regular scheduled town council meeting for this evening.
I believe we'll have to just be on hold until 7:15.
Want to put on hold? Sure.
No.
Okay.
and then we can open up the meeting at that time.
Okay.
And talk about Chris, what he could be getting his 100 hours of lost vacation, what he could be doing in Connecticut, probably in Rocky Hill.
Well, I gotta tell you, I have quite a long list of things to do around the house. Like this light over here over my head. It is. You can't really see it, but it has like, it's one of those that has like the old glass bowl and a point sticking out of it, which is not great when you're lifting your kids up. So first, but you know, it's a Franken cape, so parts of the house are newer than the others. So I first have to hunt down what circuit it's on to be able to figure out how to, you know, kill the circuit and swap out the fixtures. So, you know, that's probably a solid 35 of those 100 hours. So if the wiring in the rest of the house is any guide. So yeah. And then I have a few branches in the yard that might need tending to.
I would just like to remind everybody that I'm still recording and going live. So just mind your comments. That's all.
Well, if anybody knows how to find a switch, any electricians out there, call me out.
Yeah, consider this an RFP.
Yeah.
Chris Duff does.
Okay, now we're all going to get arrested, Chris. Thanks a lot.
What are you doing those heat charts for Chris?
And were we going to move up the legislators on the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As exciting as our subcommittees are.
So Chris, what do you think about the quarterback situation at New England for 2021?
I think the current quarterback is it's actually the same thing that I thought going into the season, not on the roster.
Yeah.
And I really would like to see Josh McDaniels go somewhere else, anywhere else.
Wasn't he supposed to go somewhere 2 years ago? Like he had like
He was supposed to go to Indy. He backed out.
and he didn't take it, right? I mean, he was offered a job there, and he didn't take it. I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think is he waiting for like Belichick to retire? I mean, is that the plan? Like, does he want to work with only Robert Kraft? Is that?
Seemed like a better move before Belichick started hiring all of his kids.
Yeah.
Now I just hope that I wish they had just started Stidham, and you know, when half the defense didn't show up, you don't have to tank embarrassingly, but just play everybody young, see what you got, and win 4 games, get a good pick. They should have done that.
Yeah, I think so too. I have a lot of confidence in Belichick in general, but I think he'll figure it out. It's just, I think the quarterback position is like really the biggest issue. I think the other stuff, I think he will sort it out. I don't know like what the plan is for that position, because everything else I think he'll get there. Like I have like real confidence like in his abilities to figure that out. I mean, even the games, I mean, yeah, they have been embarrassing, at least a few of them, to say the least. But then they are like, they show up like in certain ones, like the 45-point game, right? I mean, I don't know, like it's so like uneven. But I don't know, like yeah. I mean, other positions, I think they will figure it out probably sooner rather than later.
Well, they need to get something out of the draft too, because it's been a few years.
I mean, if you think about it, that's one thing. If you really have to have a knock on Belichick for all these years, that's one thing you can have a knock on him on, right? I mean, it's really a problem because he didn't like do very well on the drafts over the years. I mean, he has it. I mean, that's the fact, and that's what you are really like seeing, like this adding up. Like, you know how they say, like this is the stuff like you sowed like long time ago. This is all this cap situation, like everything is kind of related to that, right? I mean, but yeah, I think that has been his like bigger problem. I think the drafting.
Yeah, that's been some.
Yeah.
Because they've been investing in the position. They spent a first round pick on the running back, and not that anybody wants to hear Patriots fans complain. I apologize to the public, especially of the Jets. I'm sorry for my Jets fans out there. We love you guys.
Chris, you're gonna have to wrap it up. We have to the big show that the Prakash and Chris Patriots State.
John, is that a Bill sweater you're wearing? I can't tell.
That's a sweater.
The Bills made
Santa because it got postponed from Thursday to today.
I did see the picture. It was good. Well, since we're getting the public access up and running, and have this AV equipment, maybe we can have our sports talking head show on Zoom following the meetings.
Yeah, I think Chris, we should do like UConn basketball for 10 minutes and like the Patriots for another 10. Like I think that will get us started.
Maybe we got a new agenda item.
Yeah, it will generate.
World according to Chris and Prakash.
I guarantee you there will be more interest from the public. People will start attending these sessions a lot more.
John Murphy, take us to the town council meeting.
Yes, sir. Madam Mayor, I just forwarded you the last thing to be read in that came. So it's at the top of your inbox. You're muted. And feel free to start whenever you are ready. Everything's rolling.
Lisa, you're on mute.
You heard nothing I said. So welcome. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and here's the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the
to the
republic
for which it stands,
nation,
one nation, under God,
Indivisible,
with liberty.
indivisible, liberty, justice
for all.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to move into public comment, and I apologize, I look a little distracted because I'm actually pulling up letters for public comment on my email so that I can read them.
Lisa,
Yes,
would
sir.
you want to move up the presentation for the legislatures, or move them up before public comment?
We could do that, sure.
Sure. I'll make a motion to move the update from our state legislators, item 8B, before public comment.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, state legislators. Hello, Representative Wood and Senator Lesser. We are happy to have you with us here this evening and hear all about what you plan on doing in January. And I'm not sure who would like to go first, but the floor is open.
Senator Lesser, do you want to go first or would you like me to?
I think you should, Representative Wood.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. As you all know, I'm Carrie Wood, and we just are getting ready to start the 2021 legislative session. And what that means is there's a lot of meetings going on with representatives from the towns, and we're also meeting to talk about potential bills. I think the priority is going to be dealing with the pandemic and making sure that we provide the vaccine to as many people as possible. I did just send an email out on how that is being rolled out in the different phases and who falls in that phase. And I am still fielding questions and comments from people that have opinions about where their loved ones or themselves or their other colleagues should be, which I'm happy to pass along to representatives that are working in that working group. And I think another big concern is going to be, you know, how we innovate and invest our way out of this economically, and making sure that our businesses, small to large, are, you know, have the tools they need to move forward. I know right now DECB is distributing $5,000 in small business grants to a lot of the small businesses right here in Rocky Hill. We are working on another round here in the state, which will be rolled out in the legislative session, of grants for some of the hardest hit businesses like gyms and hospitality and leisure and restaurants. The other thing that's going to be big on the agenda is working on our budget. We do have some deficits because of the pandemic and because of the economy, you know, coming to a halt for a few months, and other businesses being affected by others, and people being unemployed. So balancing the budget and making sure we do so in the best way possible by providing Rocky Hill the education dollars that you need, as well as services, pilot dollars. And as many of you know, we're talking about putting in a bonding request for $500,000 for the Ames property. So there's going to be a lot to tackle when it comes to things related to the budget, but I promise to make them a priority for Rocky Hill. And we have a great team here with myself and Matt Lesser, and we both look forward to working with you. And I'll pass it over to Senator Lesser.
Yes, thank you, Representative Wood. And, you know, I just want to reiterate, it's been obviously an immensely difficult year for families and businesses all across the area. And we get it, and know how important it is to keep working with the town and our area businesses and families to provide that support. I know Representative Wood and I are both frustrated that the bill set to pass Congress, the stimulus, does not contain any additional funding for municipalities or states. So that's going to restrain our ability to help Rocky Hill, and we'll just have to do the best we can given the cards we've been dealt. The good news is that we still have a large rainy day fund for just this type of situation, but it's going to be a very difficult budget year ahead of us. The other good news is the extension of unemployment benefits and PPP loans, which will hopefully help keep people going for the next few months. Representative Wood just got a big promotion. If you didn't see that, she's now serving as my co-chair on the Insurance and Real Estate Committee. So really focused on that. We keep joking that we're going to move the Department of Insurance to somewhere on Route 3 in Rocky Hill as our first order of business. But we have a lot of work ahead of us, and we got a lot done this last year. We were able to bring back funding for Elm Ridge Park, and obviously supported the STEEP grant at Straska Farm. So excited to work with all of you and keep our heads down during what's, I'm sure, going to be a very difficult budget year, given just recovering from the pandemic.
I'm going to open it up to the counselors for comment. Counselor Thoreau, comments, questions, anything? The quiet one.
No, I don't have any questions at this time for them.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Let's see. Counselor Emmanuel, comments, questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Counselor Duff.
Yeah, I have a few. Always got a few. One of them is, and Madam Mayor, I don't know if you're going to mention this. There's been some discussion about kind of the future of what we're doing with the municipal waste disposal, and Mira, as it looks like that plant may not be refurbished. And there's some discussion about where municipalities may be able to send our waste and kind of what the future looks like on that front. It's an area where we've seen a lot of costs over the last 5 or 10 years, and we're projected to see more as we kind of wait to see what the future looks like. I didn't know if either Senator Lesser or Representative Wood, if you had any information on where we might be in that process.
Councilman, I know that there have been some recent developments in the last couple of days, but I would want to circle back and make sure I'm giving you the most accurate information before I say it publicly. So let me do some research and get back to you on that. I think it's a very good question.
Yeah, and I will share with you that the new chair of the Environment Committee, Representative Dorinda Boer, has used the term, we're going to be doing a lot of trash talking about the Capitol this session. She understands the severity of the situation, and it is one of her undertakings that she's going to be taking on, and those on the Environment Committee. So we do understand that it's something that needs to be done this year. So if you have any questions or want to comment, or if I can connect you with members of the Environment Committee, I'm happy to do that.
And then I'll leave other questions to other folks, but my other question was, we talked about how the state is going to be facing some challenges, and as are we, with a lot of areas of the pandemic and also other different obligations coming up. Anything that you see happening on the revenue side, if it's online gaming, if it's other ideas, if it's legalization of marijuana or other things that might be out there that the legislature might help to tackle to generate revenue instead of getting it on the on the tax side?
Yes, all of the above are on all of those are up for conversation. The demise of the East Windsor Casino, I think, changes the equation for sports betting, and I think makes it more likely that will be something that we can pass this year. There's also conversations about digital downloads and as well, Connecticut has a large number of commuters to New York City who are not currently commuting, they're telecommuting. And so there's an open question as to how that changes, which state they owe taxes to. So there's a lot up in the air right now, but I think that's an important question that you asked.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, digital lotto as well. So we refer to a lot of these things as sin taxes. The good news is people have been drinking heavily during the pandemic. So, our tax revenue on that side looks good, but in all seriousness, I do understand the need to be innovative, and I'm looking at things like incentivizing development in various sectors to try to stimulate the economy. We would do that without, a cost except future taxes. So, we have a couple really creative things working on. Also, a jobs bill, I call it, and I worked on this a couple of years ago. I'm going to work on it again, which is for some high-skilled sectors in the state, and we have it right here in Rocky Hill with our advanced manufacturing. They're having a very hard time finding plastics engineers, chemical engineers, mechanical engineers. Across our medical field, we're having a very hard time with skilled nurses, APRNs, cardiologists, radiologists, all very high-paying jobs. And the bill is basically, it's a public-private partnership, so you would move to Connecticut and commit to stay for 5 years and have most, if not all, of your student loans paid off. So just being creative and thinking outside the box. I mean, I always say this, we need to be innovative at this time more so than ever, and invest in our Connecticut companies and invest in people here in Connecticut. And I think we'll be better for it in the end.
Anyone want to comment on Councilor Duff's? Okay, Councilor Greenspan.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank Senator Lesser and Representative Wood for joining us tonight. Thank you for making the time. My question actually kind of piggybacks on what Councilor Duff was asking. At the state level, you have multiple ways to raise revenue. At the municipal level, the majority of our revenue comes from property taxes, because outside of state revenue trickling down, some of the grants we receive and some of the fees we charge at the town level, we have no other ways to raise revenue. So we also go to our budget cycle, is there any ways you're looking at the state level that may allow municipalities to raise funds outside of property taxes?
Yes, we're always looking at municipal options. I think that's been part of the conversation in the past, and it's something that I would support is making sure that we're looking at giving you more tools and more flexibility for how to raise revenue. So you find a good appropriate mix for Rocky Hill.
Yeah, same here. I mean, a lot of what you hear me say is about investing in the economy and making sure the towns have the tools to attract those types of businesses. But, Councilor Greenspan, I think we do need to talk about property tax reform on a statewide level with a real short-term and long-term plan. And, you've heard me say this in the past that I'm committed to doing so. I know many members of the council have said, if you have ideas that you want to participate in. I know there were task force years ago, but, we need to be working on this. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But ways we can regionalize services and pass on savings to towns in a way that's voluntary and uses state funding to incentivize is definitely something that I hope to see going forward. I don't think it's going to happen this year, unfortunately, but I do want to continue working on it.
The other thing that I think would be important to emphasize, obviously the flip side is state revenue, and over the last couple of years we were able to increase slightly the ECS funding that Rocky Hill received from the state, and I know how important that is for keeping property taxes under control. Keeping a state aid at least flat over the next 2 years will be an enormous challenge given the budget realities. I'm certainly prepared to prioritize that, but I know it's going to be very difficult. I know that's very important for all of the folks out there who are struggling with high property taxes.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Prakash.
Yeah, so this is a great discussion, and piggybacking on the last two questions. Senator Lesser, you mentioned bringing the Department of Insurance here, and that goes to one of my, I should say, my pet, topics, which is pilot money. We have a lot of, it sounds great now in theory, and you'll have a short commute, and Carrie will have a short commute probably visiting the Department of Insurance, but it will take another building off our rolls, taxable rolls, right? So the question is really, the pilot money we have seen has been going down, really going down since 2014 or 15. We did this thing, the Steward, I don't know whether it was 6 months ago, 8 months ago, maybe even, and it has been on a decline, right? So my question is really to the idea of all these buildings that we have in our town, which are state property, and our share of that money keeps going down. What are we going to do about it?
Well, we got to focus on funding pilot funding, Councilman. And just to be clear, that I was joking back there. We're not moving the.
I know you are, and I took it in that spirit.
Yeah, I figured you knew, but I'm not sure that everybody streaming got the joke. So, yes, no, obviously, Rocky Hill is doing more than its fair share, supporting state services and nonprofits, and you're not able to tax that property, and so the pilot program is really essential to helping make Rocky Hill whole. And we need to do a better job of making sure that program is fully funded. It's only fair. I know that. The folks at Rocky Hill are proud to be the host of facilities like the State Veterans Home, but you shouldn't have to take a big hit to your your grand list because of it. So we wouldn't. It's our job to make sure that comes forward, and that's part and parcel with what Representative Wood was talking about, the importance of property tax reform in the state.
Wonderful. Yeah, Councilor Levine.
Good afternoon, Sarah Lester and Representative Wood. Thanks for joining us again. My question changed direction a little bit. It's about a little bit about law enforcement, more about, as you may have seen, there seems to have been a rash of thievery in Rock Hill and surrounding towns, especially folks going around to cars, to check Claremont cars. A friend of mine just 2 nights ago had his license plate stolen right from his driveway, ripped off of his car. His neighbor's car was vandalized, taking things out of it, as well as others on the street. And as someone who has a Ring camera, and you see all these reports through every day, you see from somewhere, either it's in Newington, Weathersfield, Rocky Hill, what have you. And with what seems like stuff coming out from the state that's making the police officer's job more difficult, what are things you guys are looking at to try to curb this, what's going on with this right now?
Well, we just held a forum with Mayor Murata and mayors from surrounding towns, as well as from public safety experts, from prosecutors from around the state, to try to get a sense of what's going on. That is a question we get. There was a recent rash of break-ins in Newington that I know we both got a lot of calls about. What I can, as best as we can tell, there was a huge bump up at really starting in March of this year that really coincides with the beginning of the pandemic. Trying to figure out how that's related to what we're seeing. My best guess of what we heard on the forum was a couple of things. One, kids are in many places not in school, and so there are more opportunities to get in trouble if you're not in school. Two, there's been a closure of lockup facilities. The Hartford lockup was closed for a time, has been closed at times because of COVID-19, and a variety of other factors that make it harder to place juveniles in particular because of pandemic-related issues. That as best as I can tell, is it largely related to the pandemic, but very concerning. Even one car break-in is one car break-in too many, and so I think what we're really looking at is additional tools that we can give folks to address this issue and make sure that everyone's safe. Really focused on that. One of the issues that I've been really concerned about for a while is that in 2018, the state shut down the Connecticut Juvenile Training School, which the secured facility in Middletown, and rather than and failed at the time to direct the savings that the state got into the facilities and services that are really needed to address juvenile offenders. So, some of those are locked facilities, some of those are staff secure facilities. The state has done a decent job since then of building up some of that capacity, but there really wasn't the transfer of those funding into those regional supports that, so the result, there's oftentimes not enough places to put juvenile offenders who really do need to be placed somewhere for the safety of the community.
Yeah, just real quick to follow up on that. It was an interesting call because we received a lot of facts, but it was definitely one of many that we need to have in order to get, to some solutions. I mean, we didn't leave that call with a silver bullet on what we need to do tomorrow. So we need to do a lot more discussions. I'm looking forward to working with our local police department on their recommendations and just continue this because, I'm sure all of us are going through the same thing. One of these is too many, and, people are changing their lifestyles. They're not doing their morning walks or jogs, and, they are worried at night. They're getting up throughout the night to check their cars. Not everyone has a garage. So I think, we need to keep working on this until we see change in behavior.
I will also add, I think that, my sense is that a lot of people are nervous right now. People have heard about these break-ins. They may have experienced them themselves. And it's scary. People have a right to feel safe in their communities, and they should feel safe. And again, even one of these incidents is one too many. But if you look overall at the state of Connecticut, the good news is crime is actually way down this year. And so, these types of incidents are actually a bit of an aberration, and violent crime is down. So that is good. And so people shouldn't, be worried that there is an overall upward trend. We've got a specific issue that we got to deal with, and we got to deal with, aggressively. But I wouldn't, I want to make sure that people are reassured that there's, not some sort of violent crime wave that's overtaking our towns.
Yeah, my concern with this, Senator, has always been that these incidents in themselves are not violent at all, right? And I think we all understand that, and they are on a bigger in a bigger scheme of things, they are incidents which are considered low on that pole of the level of the crime, right? But I'm worried that one of these incidents one day is going to spin out of control. Like somebody will take the matters in their own hands, owning a firearm or something. And they will be within their rights to do that, I should say. And I'm just worried about that aspect of this, which is, the crime itself might not be at that scale, but just it can get out of hand under certain circumstances when people feel threatened. And I just want to mention that on the record, because I think this is all, we all understand that, it's a tough issue between juvenile crime and property crime and all that stuff. But I think I just want to emphasize that point, because that is definitely worrisome to me. Just the frequency of these incidents, and just one of them not getting out of hand at some point. I hope not, but I just wanted to say that.
Councillor Levine, did you want to say something? I thought your hand was up. Oh, it was Councillor Sharma. Councillor Sharma, you're muted.
Legislators, thank you for coming down to brief us a little bit. One of the two areas that the mayor's tasked me to get involved in here at the town level is farmland acquisition and the public safety. So before I jump into the public safety arena, which I want to continue the conversation a little bit more, because we do have very serious concerns about the rise in crime that we're seeing here in Rocky Hill. But we're very thankful of that farmland preservation funding. The town of Rocky Hill actually leads the state, I believe, in buying up and preserving farmland. And we were thankful to get that steep grant to put a barn on our latest acquisition, which is the Streska farm. But there is a snag on one of our deals with a local farmer, and we would appreciate it, if there's anything you can do at the state level to release those funds to a deal that was already signed and sealed. And we could talk offline on that. I don't want to name any names, but they've been waiting way more than a year for their money.
Yeah, just please reach out to us after, and we'll definitely help.
Okay, awesome. Just jumping over to the public safety, we're not seeing one incident. We have residents that are calling in. We have video footage that we show regularly on our public safety subcommittee meetings of under 18-year-old kids coming up and nonchalantly walking into our citizens, our residents' driveways and yards, and just trying the doors until they find one that's open. The mayor has done a successful campaign of lock it or lose it, lock your doors, keep valuables out of your car. But it's our understanding that the juveniles that are doing this are not afraid of being caught. And that does concern us, because there doesn't seem to be any dissuasion for them to just walk in, whether they're not afraid to get caught, they can't get caught, they are released, their record is expunged after they turn 18. I mean, we're feeling, and I have seniors that are at home at night, and they're watching this happen, and from their windows, from their doorbell ring monitors, from their cell phones, and so it's a very real problem to Rocky Hill. I mean, to Rocky Hill residents. But that's not the only uptick. We are seeing traffic violations. We're seeing speeding and moving violations, people blowing through stop line. I don't know if they're driving mad because of COVID, but I'm going to say it. I think that there's a chilling effect on our law enforcement right now. Part of it could be COVID. Part of it could be other pressures, other legal pressures. And, we want the state to know that we do feel like there's an uptick in anxiety by our residents over what they're seeing happening around them in their neighborhoods. we did have an alleged gunshot fire from a car fleeing a yard, where a resident stepped out into the yard to challenge somebody jostling with a car. So these concerns are real to us.
If I could suggest an example, I just got a ring alert that someone is looking right now near my neighborhood. So as we speak.
I mean, my office was broken into. We're definitely seeing something going on.
Okay.
What I can do is tell you facts of why these things are happening. Again, it doesn't solve the problem. You know, the Councilman Prakash kind of hit the nail on the head. These are crimes of opportunity. The amount of car thefts that are due to fobs is 65%, and the number of cars that are stolen are range between the age of 2010 and 2017 because the fobs are in the car. I mean, I can keep, you know, there's the juvenile courts, you know, are not putting kids into the Harper Detention Center because it was closed during COVID. We have heard from prosecutors that say when they don't show up for their social work, which is now being done on Zoom, there's no repercussions. So I could keep going on, but this doesn't solve the problem. And that's what I would like to get to the bottom of. I want to come up with solutions in the short term and long term that stop or curve the behavior. And that's really what I haven't heard from our few discussions that we've had with experts in this field. And I think we need to be working on it on a weekly basis until we come up with something. I mean, we're not the only ones going through this. It doesn't mean that it's, you know, we condone this behavior in any way, but we, you know, need to work on something. And I realize that it's top priority, and I'll make it a top priority this session.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with that. I would also point out last year we did, you know, we'd heard isolated reports of this being an issue even last year, and we worked across the aisle with my colleague Senator Fasano, who's a Republican from North Haven, and we passed Senate Bill 504, which gave additional tools for you know, prosecutors to address repeat juvenile offenders. So this is something that we've heard before. I think right now, to my earlier point, we still need some additional resources to go into those staff secure and locked facilities to make sure that they're adequate places to put offenders. And obviously, they're just logistical issues with the pandemic. You know, it does not, it may not make sense for an officer to drive all the way down to our Bridgeport lockup for a car theft case, even though certainly that's a very important and serious issue as far as we're concerned. You know, I think compared to other issues and other places that an officer could be used, that may not be the best allocation of resources. At least that's what we're hearing when we talk to folks. And if you hear other things, let us know. If there are places where the system is not working, we will work with you to make sure that it works.
Thank you. Councilor Greenspan.
So I appreciate the comments related to the changes you're working on at the state level and the challenges you have. But what tools are you going to be able to provide for local law enforcement that would help eradicate the problem?
Well, I think I just mentioned one, which is making sure that we have adequate places to, you know, so if the concern, and I've heard this from officers, is that there is a policy of catch and release where they're concerned, you know, why bother arresting an offender if I'm concerned they're going to be back on this corner tomorrow. If that's the concern, what I'm saying I'm focused on is making sure that there are adequate places to put repeat offenders. If that's where the real choke point is. One of the things I've been trying to do is try to get police, prosecutors, the the court system around a table, so we can really figure out where the fault lines are. Because we see a lot of finger pointing, and making sure we can address where those fault lines are, I think, is really, really important. The best information I can provide is we need more of those facilities, and we need more spots to place juvenile offenders, understanding that that's a real challenge in the middle of a pandemic, because Hartford lockups have been closed. Other options have been really shut down because of the pandemic.
And besides strengthening the punishment for juveniles, which is one thing that we hear all the time, the other thing that I hear, and I asked many of you about this recently when we bumped into each other, is that there is a policy that was put into effect about 8 years ago in many municipalities not to do high-speed chases for car thefts, and only to do so in extreme incidents, like when there is violent harm being done to someone. If that policy is something that our local PDs are looking for again, I just need to hear from it, because a lot of people that I ask about that say, no, we don't want to have that going on in our communities, but maybe there's a middle ground. Maybe in certain instances, they are able to do that. So I just need to hear on a local level, exactly what it is, what tools they need. And I'm happy to, push those forward.
We've also, until the pandemic, we'd seen a pretty giant drop in car thefts over the last couple of years. So in 2017, there were 7,300 car thefts in Connecticut. If you go back to the 2000, it was much higher. But as recently as 2017, it was 7,300. It was just 5,600 last year. So that's a pretty sizable drop in just a couple of years. The one place where we had been seeing a real flare up was Waterbury, the Waterbury area. But the recent flare up is really only since March of this year, as far as I can tell. If you have additional data that shows otherwise, though, that would be really helpful to see.
We do actually have, we did have a spike, a high spike of car thefts in the summer months last year, just in 2019. And in the same time frame, we had a spike here in Rocky Hill. But what we're seeing is roving waves. So we may have 50 in Rocky Hill during the summer, and then by the fall, Newington gets hit with 100, and then Meriden, and a lot of our cars are being stolen by folks that are coming here from Bristol and driving down to Waterbury and leaving the stolen car, which is where some of the goods stolen from our office were recovered in a stolen car in Plainville, of all places. So, we're definitely seeing an uptick around these parts.
What I would probably ask, if you haven't done so, is to engage with our local police chiefs within the district and ask them, we're not experts, ask them what tools they need, what assistance you could provide them, what needs to change so they could help us. We get the constant complaints from residents, as I think we've said, and it's on the news often with the car break-ins in particular. And along with Councilor Prakash, unfortunately, this is going to escalate where I think somebody's going to get hurt or much worse.
We've been fortunate to have our police department become nationally accredited, and they're not the first police department in the state to be secondarily accredited. And they were able to get through a grant. I think the state had the body cams and the car cams. So we're hoping to garner more strong evidence to go along with the residents that have captured footage after footage of these petty car thefts.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Malera.
Thank you again, legislators, for the briefings, but my questions have been addressed through counselors on this call. I do appreciate your time.
Have I left anybody out? Okay, I think I will go then. So yeah, in terms of the trash, we are really looking into trash and recycling. We actually were very, very early on involved, meeting with the commissioner And we were one of the first towns to be a member of the Connecticut Coalition of Sustainable Municipal Management and Materials Management, excuse me. And so Councilor Thoreau and I have, for the past several months, been on a working group for unit-based pricing. And there are a number of working groups through this coalition that, if you haven't been following that, we do have our own website up with the state through DEEP. And some of the concerns are, how are we going to implement these programs that we know need to be implemented so that we can start reducing waste? But how do we implement them without more unfunded mandates onto municipalities? So I'm hoping that you will take a look at that, because we are going to start exploring potentially pilot programs here. And obviously any help that we can get from the state in making that happen, and modeling what efforts should look like in other municipalities would be very helpful. I do know that you will be looking at zoning. Again, I belong to a committee through COST that has put a list together of recommendations for you guys in January. So I will leave that on the table. I know you have probably, if you may not have seen it, or you may just have seen it. Through the coalition though on trash and recycling, we will have our final report in January, and then that will be presented to you on recommendations from us. So that's still pending. But when we look at property crime, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I do have some concerns with the comments I'm hearing, because it really is hardly one incident. These are growing incidents, and we have the data. We don't just have data from this year. So I don't want to blame it entirely on COVID. Certainly COVID has exacerbated every possible problem that Americans have seen. But we've seen spikes in property crime last year, pre-COVID, right? And this just continues to accelerate. And now we see the propensity for violence. So that's a problem. And I'm concerned when we say we haven't heard solutions, because we have been talking for months and months and months about this, saying the same thing. And, we can talk about catch and release. We can talk about, high-speed chases. We can talk about what has the Police Accountability Act taken away from law enforcement, perhaps unintentionally, right? To sort of just do their jobs on an everyday basis. And when we look at the totality of the policies that are being put in place, that's where the problem is. And you mentioned, Senator, that we were on this phone call, and we did hear solutions on that phone call. We heard from experts, we heard from prosecutors, we heard from law enforcement, and all they said was, we need a couple tools in our toolbox. And one of those tools is consequences. And all of us who have children know kids need consequences, right? It's not a bad thing. It's not a dirty word. And actually it helps them feel responsible, to know that they can be accountable. And then that builds confidence, because then they know that they can come out into the community, they can go out into society, and they can contribute in a positive way. And so we have to show these kids not the path to incarceration, but a path to earning their way in life, right? By building their confidence, by showing them that if they're going to continue to make bad choices, maybe once, maybe twice, that there will be consequences. And I think that message is loud and clear. So I think that the easiest way around this is to model what those consequences look like. And maybe it's a better diversionary program, because that's another thing we heard, that juvenile crime is coming down, thankfully, in every area except property crime. And yet, maybe sometimes some things have been closed, but not everything is closed. And yeah, maybe there's a pandemic, but that's not the focus. The focus is, this is a really big issue here. We've given you guys the stats. Multiple municipalities have given you the stats, and the experts are asking just simply for consequences. So I'm asking you on behalf of the residents who are they're tired of spending money for smashed windows and tools so that they can feel safe. We have an apartment complex that just had to hire a private security guard. So you know that that landlord's probably, if he doesn't have to absorb it during this hard time for him, he's going to have to pass that down to the residents. So everyone is suffering at multiple levels as a result of the property crime. So I just ask you, please take into consideration what's going on.
Mayor, I hope that nothing in my remarks gave the misimpression that I'm saying, or that, as far as I know, any legislator is saying that there should not be consequences for anyone, whether a juvenile or an adult, committing property crime, breaking into a car, stealing a car, or God forbid, shooting at a citizen or resident of the town of Rocky Hill. Absolutely, there need to be consequences. And frankly, there are consequences. There are consequences in the Connecticut statutes that we have passed. And I mentioned, Mayor, last year, the bipartisan legislation we passed to increase diversionary opportunities to make sure that we are addressing, especially this problem of repeat offenders, these kids who are going out and doing this over and over again, and to make sure that we are addressing this, that we are nipping this in the bud before any of the parade of horribles that other council members have raised come to pass. None of us want there to be an incident of violence in Rocky Hill or anywhere else. And we need to make sure that we're stopping this behavior swiftly and aggressively, because even one break-in is too many, but certainly the increase we've seen this year is not acceptable. I pointed out a couple of things that I think we can do to make sure that we have the tools we need to address this problem. And that means creating more facilities, taking the savings that we got from closing CJTS and making sure we got places to put kids who are real problems so they don't go to jail. And so they're not causing a mayhem in our communities. But, you know, because we talked about numbers, I will just point out that until this year, we saw a downward trajectory in property crime. And overall, we're seeing a downward trajectory in overall crime. But I know that if your car gets broken into, that's not how it feels. And people feel unsafe, and they have every right to feel unsafe. And it's our job to work together, town and the state, making sure that if there are specific problems, if there are specific holes in the tools available to law enforcement, that we're addressing those. And, you know, with respect, Mayor, I did not, you know, you mentioned sort of offhand the issue of high-speed chases. Were you suggesting that we work to allow high-speed chases in Rocky Hill? I was not clear on that.
Of course not. Nobody wants a high-speed chase on a back street, right? That's not safe. So what I'm suggesting is, if we want to start really tackling this, is if we're being told that sanctions need to be put in place, then that's a really good place to start, or at least that's a really good place to start considering.
Well, I would like to comment on the pursuit or the rules of engagement. And I do think that our officers, our patrol officers, are hamstrung right now on the rules of engagement that are being passed down. I do think that some of these crimes of opportunity are being witnessed by patrol officers who have to stand down. And so we would like to see the ability for some of these patrol officers to apprehend in a safe way. When they find a crime and they're around the block, they should be able to respond, especially if they're right there. If that means cutting off a cul-de-sac so they can't leave, the little things like that can help us, because otherwise it falls into detective work. And as you suggested, Senator, earlier, we're not sending a patrolman down the Bridgeport or Waterbury, a better use of their time to go retrieve a stolen car. But if we could stop it where it's happening, we might have a better chance, and that being short of high-speed chases.
Okay.
Why are officers standing down if they're witnessing a car theft?
there's definitely a no pursuit sentiment out there. No pursuit. You cannot cause a car thief to run on you, or you initiated the run.
Well, that's why we were asking about the pursuit policy, because if you're, we just need clear direction on it. If they want to block off a cul-de-sac, they can block off a cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So I think, we've discussed it long enough. I know my Chief Custer, I don't know if you want to make any comments. I know that you're there. I just want to I want to acknowledge you. And if there's anything you want to say or contribute.
I'm here.
Okay.
And I've been listening, and first of all, welcome Mayor and council members and Senator Lesser and Representative Woods. I appreciate the dialogue. Council has generated all the questions I had before this started, so I decided not to cut in. And I also would like to add to the council that Senator Lesser and Representative Woods did reach out to me to set up a meeting with myself and my command staff to go over these issues. And I appreciate that. And we are going to take them up on it probably after the first of the year. Some of my command staff had some COVID issues, so we have to wait till we get through that protocol. But when we do meet, I will offer to you both some suggestions that we have. And I think they're going to be a combination of juvenile reform in Connecticut, and certainly the detention centers are an issue. And then maybe discussion on relaxing some of the restrictions that have been placed on the police as a result of the Police Accountability Act. I think if we can find a happy medium there, that we might be able to see and make some progress. By the way, that no pursuit requirement is actually a state statute enacted through Post in our statewide pursuit policy that all Connecticut agencies have. And this has come up because, as the council has said, we get the calls and people are upset, and why didn't you go after them? And we have to explain to them, if it's a property crime, of which a stolen motor vehicle is, by state law, we cannot pursue. So, that's just one of the number of areas that we can discuss when we get together. But I think it's going to be a combination of those two areas, and hopefully we can find a happy medium. At the very least, not having a place to put these kids, Senator, is truly a problem. And it doesn't have to be a detention center. Maybe we look at some residential-based programs for placing these kids. But again, rather than get into all the details now, there was a lot of good comments made. I took some notes. So I'm going to save that for our meeting, and I look forward to having that right after the first of the year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And we want to thank you, Senator and Representative. We obviously, you understand how passionate we feel. We hear from the taxpayers all the time, and nobody wants to be a victim. So we know that you're going to do your best, and we appreciate you listening to us. And we wish you the best of luck in January. We look forward to your work.
Could I make one request?
Yes, you may.
Shifting gears over to school construction. I don't know if you guys have any contact with DAS. I believe that the school construction unit is under DAS now. And the town has a high school project that we completed, as well as an intermediate school project we completed. And we're waiting for a state audit and to close out our grant, a construction grant with the state. And the legislature changed the retainage from 5% to 11% of the grant money that the state holds until the audit is completed. Now, generally, if you have an audit, they usually send a team of people out to the location to, look at all our orderly paperwork and all that before they close out the project. But as of now, I'm not sure what the DAS plan is as far as releasing this grant money. So one request would be that if they could go back to the old 5% retainage and release some of that money, because the town has to basically borrow money waiting for the state to come in and finalize it, because we completed the construction project. We paid off all the contractors and so on. So the sooner we can get our money, we close out the project, and everybody's sort of knows how they stand as far as on a financial basis. So I don't know if you do have any contact with them, but if you could just stress
Of course we do.
Is there an audit planned, or are you just kind of waiting in limbo for them?
Part of the problem is that because it's a school construction project, DAS deals with our friends in the Board of Ed and talk to them. We're under, we received a letter that they are planning to do an audit on the high school project, but that was months ago. We recently closed out the intermediate school and so on. So again, DAS goes through the Board of Ed side, of course, because it's a school project and so on. So I don't know whether you might nudge them a bit, saying, why don't you send them at least half the money you're retaining, so that can help us, get our debt service lowered and so on.
So
Just to be clear, does the money need to be released on the high school and the intermediary is all set, or are you waiting for it on both?
Both.
Okay, thank you. I'll definitely get on it.
And it's partly DAS and it's partly OPM. The head of school construction is Costa DiMattis, who's the undersecretary of OPM, and one of us, I can call him tomorrow and just sort of get a sense of that. It's a good question.
Great. Thank you very much.
John, just to put it into context, I think we're close to $1 million in those payments, right? Could you give a ballpark on the amount that we're waiting for?
Well, these are older projects. I haven't looked at these numbers in a while, but they're each, the high school project's well over, probably closer to $2 million, and the other one is in the $1 million range, because that came in under budget quite a bit. So we could have a couple $1 million tied up on that, especially due to that 11% retainage.
That's great. Well, again, I want to thank you both for attending, and we will see you tomorrow morning at the Lieutenant Governor's press conference, and wish to thank you for your assistance in the generous grant from the governor, $128,000, so that we can construct a barn for educational purposes on our newly acquired Straska farm. So on behalf of the town, I wish to thank you both very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
I look forward to working with you.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so an hour in, and we're going to move to public comment. Let me just read the typical announcement. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public, who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov, and you will be provided with a link to attend the Zoom remote meeting and instructions on how you will participate. So first, I just want to check and make sure we have no one waiting in our waiting room, like a live person, before I read what we have sent through email. So I'm going to pull up my emails now while I'm waiting to hear from IT John.
Yeah, he said nobody was waiting in the chat.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So let's see. I have a string of them. I want to make sure. Wait, let me just go. These are not necessarily in order, but here's one. Dear member of the town council and town manager John Mayer, I would really appreciate if someone would read my comments into the record. Unfortunately, I can't participate in the meeting via Zoom. And this is from Krista Mariner at 58 Farms Village Road. Okay. I learned last week that Wayne Chapman, one of the most notorious child predators in American history, has moved into 60 West Street. We need the assistance of the town council in sending a loud and clear message to Secure Care that Rocky Hill will not be the dumping ground for America's Most Wanted. It's absolutely terrifying to learn about the monster in our midst, so close to Mosier School. A brief background on Wayne Chapman. He was convicted of 2 violent child rapes in the 1970s in Massachusetts. He was never supposed to see the light of day. However, he was released from prison in 2019. His release was a deviation from the norm. His release, it was opposed by the governor of Massachusetts and sparked new legislation to make the release of sexual offenders subject to more judicial oversight. Wayne Chapman has admitted to over 100 child rapes in the United States and Canada. He is also the main person of interest in the disappearance of 10-year-old Andy Puglisi of Lawrence, Massachusetts. Wayne Chapman was the last person seen with Andy when he disappeared on August 21st, 1967. On the Connecticut Sex Offender Registry, Wayne Chapman's entry also states, the offender has multiple sexual assault convictions in multiple states, including Rhode Island and Pennsylvania. I'm including a photo below of the proximity of 60 West to Mosier School and its playing fields and playground. As you know, every 4th and 5th grader in Rocky Hill attends Mosier. There's a documentary called Have You Seen Andy? Available on Amazon Prime Video and HBO Max, which details the history of Wayne Chapman. There is also a podcast called The Vanished, featuring Melanie Perkins McLaughlin, the creator of the documentary. She was a childhood friend of Andy Puglisi. The documentary includes audio tapes of Wayne Chapman, where he details his fondness for school buses and the young boys getting onto the buses. I would say more, but the content is too graphic. At 60 West, he has a straight view across to Mosier. There's also a patio there, and the dining room looks toward Mosier. At least it did when it was still an old-fashioned skilled nursing facility. As a level 3 offender, most likely to reoffend, he's as close to any potential victim as he possibly can be. Regarding his placement at 60 West, as a private referral from out of state, Secure Care could have said no. It's not like he was sent there by Connecticut Department of Corrections per their contract. His placement shows Secure Care's wanton disregard for the public safety and general welfare of the children of Rocky Hill. Secure Care is the exact opposite of a responsible corporate citizen. A message needs to be sent out loud and clear to Secure Care that Rocky Hill will not stand for one of the most notorious child predators in American history being placed in our collective backyard. Madam Mayor, as co-chair of Stay Invested PAC, you worked very hard in 2017 to get the referendum for the new Mosier School approved in that location. The new Mosier is one of the crown jewels of Rocky Hill. You should be very proud of your accomplishment. You have a moral responsibility to help protect the children of Rocky Hill. You and your fellow counselors need to send a message to Secure Care that their acceptance of Wayne Chapman is not acceptable to the residents of Rocky Hill. Thank you for your help, Krista Mariner. And there's photos. Okay, thank you, Ms. Mariner. I'm gonna just search now on my email for the other messages. One moment, please. Okay. All right. We have another letter to be read into the record this evening. This one is from a Jacqueline Farnham, 95 West Street, written comments. Dear Town Council members, you all know what is going on at 60 West. The fact is that there is no way Secure Care, who doesn't care can guarantee the safety of our children in the neighborhood and at Mosier because the criminals and the pedophile trash they attract can come and go in our community. We need to protect the children. You need to protect the children. I am resigning from my position as a leader in the long-term care industry for 24 years, working with nursing homes in Connecticut, and formerly for 11 years with nursing homes in Massachusetts, so that I can now talk publicly about this. Nobody can say that I don't know what I'm talking about. I challenge Lisa Murata to also make some sacrifices and put the kids first instead of your personal profits and boycott 60 West. Mrs. Mayor, please stop bringing these criminals into and around town in your ambassador wheelchair vans. The residents are leading a renewed grassroots effort, including lawn signs, rallies when it's safe, and we will be featuring on Facebook the sex offenders, but also the vendors and workers at 60 West who, by their actions, are endangering our children. We will be relentless. I am grateful for the efforts of Carrie Wood and Matt Lesser. The town council needs to do their job, do something. You will learn the result of doing nothing come November 2021. Sincerely, Jacqueline Farnham. Thank you, Jacqueline Farnham. And our next letter is from Melissa and Christopher Mull. Yeah, 18 Berkshire Road. Okay. We are sending this email to express our deep concern over the 60 West Street facility. We are appalled that this kind of facility was approved in a residential neighborhood and now so close to a school that our son currently goes to. We are outraged that Wayne Chapman was moved to this sort of facility when there are so many of these facilities available that are not in a heavily residential neighborhood. We are sick and tired of the state of Connecticut getting to do these things and open these kinds of facilities in residential communities without the approval of the residents it directly affects. We love Rocky Hill and moved here for the location and the school system, but this kind of facility endangers our children and residents and does not belong in a heavily populated area in a great town like Rocky Hill. Please take the time and listen to the residents and get these criminals out of the 60 West Street facility. Sincerely, Melissa and Christopher Mull. And I want to say that that is all. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Mull. I want to say that's all, but just bear with me one moment because I don't want to leave anybody out. I think that's that. Okay. John, there was John Mayer. We don't have any more emails that came in after, right? I think we're good.
You're on mute, John.
Still on mute.
Those are the only three that I've seen, unless John Murphy has anything else that came in later or closer to the start of the town council meeting.
No, I'm not hearing from Mr. Murphy. Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to appointments and resignations. Councilor Duff?
No appointments or resignations.
Okay. And Councilor Sharma? Who's muted, but I'm going to tell you he doesn't have any. Oh, actually, no.
I have no appointments or
I don't
anything.
think I have any. Yeah, I'm okay. Let's move on. Approval of the minutes from the meeting on December 7th, 2020, of which you have in your packet. And I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 7th council meeting.
Thank you. And is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Madam Mayor, before we go to the subcommittee reports, could I make another motion to amend the agenda for this evening? Under item 8, I'd like to add item 8C, discussion and possible action to accept funding from the Municipal Coronavirus Relief Fund. And also add item D, deferment of tax payments due and payable on January 1st, 2021 per Executive Order 9R.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Greenspan. Is there a second?
Second that.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right, so we have now 2 new items under new business, section 8. Thank you. Moving to subcommittee reports, we'll begin with finance.
The Finance Committee did meet. The first item on our agenda was the sale of 65 Walnut Street, for which we held the public hearing earlier this evening. And it is on our agenda under new business item A. We'll discuss it further at that point. The town did conduct a reverse auction as a member of CROG with consultation with New Energin LLC for electric at town buildings. And what they were able to do with this reverse auction was take our current rate of 0.09070 kilowatt hours and reduce it to 0.07419 kilowatt hours. That's an 18.2% savings, and it should amount into approximately $197,000 in cost savings per year, and it's a 4-year contract. And that is on the consent agenda, item A this evening. The item that I just added to the agenda is the FEMA expenses and OPM expenses, which the town manager can go through at that time. That'll be item D. The other item that was on the consent agenda, and I know we all received an email on earlier today, was the MDC budget. Came in with a 0% increase in the ad valorem tax. So that was positive news. It did have an increase in the water usage from $3.97 per CCF to $4.05 per CCF. And I did not know what a CCF was. So it's a centum cubic foot, which is the equivalent of 748 gallons of water, just to put it in perspective. I believe that is all of the items from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Councilor Greenspan. Moving on to government operations, please.
Yes, government operations has not met since our last town council meeting. We are next scheduled to meet on January 4th, 2021.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilor Levine. Moving to public safety. Is there a report?
Sure. Public safety did meet this evening, and from fire, from the fire department, they responded to 49 incidents this month with a year-to-date total of 568 incidents to respond to. Last year at this time, they had a 605 incident count. Training hours are at 315. Staffing is holding. They've lost some, they've added some. They're still at 73. They have 7 new prospects in the pipeline for the fire department. Had no injuries, and they finished their last live burn. Ambulance, 386 calls. Their year-to-date total is 3,797 calls. They represented a town at a PP E pickup, a personal protection equipment pickup, where they got a very good cachet of equipment. In one instance, 18,000 surgical masks secured for the town. So they have that. The ambulance did have their successful winter wonderland. They were able to have 263 cars registered and go through the display at Elmridge Park without incident. They serviced 487 children, meaning that they were able to meet Santa. And they also helped meet the needs of 5 specially sponsored families this year. So a huge success. And they worked in conjunction with the health district, so there were no violations or even close to in the process of routing folks through that display. Police department. November calls for service year-to-date through November, 3,003 calls. There were 31 criminal arrests, 34 motor vehicle accidents, 21 infractions issued, 62 warnings issued. They completed 178 hours of training. They are down 6 officers with 4 to start in January in the pipeline. With those 4 coming on due to start in January, the police force stands at patrol officers at 36. There are 2 others in process or review, and there is 1 at the academy and no COVID cases. Chief Custer did give a report on 60 West, and he said that yes, he is in contact with the facility. They do respond to calls at the facility, a total of only 57 calls year to date. No criminal arrests. The majority of their calls are medical calls and fire calls to the facility, believe it or not. The new publicized resident of the facility, that announcement comes down from the state and the facility, and we want the town to know, the chief wants the town to know, the chief was informed and notified, the town manager was informed and notified, and the school superintendent is informed and notified when it's near a school, and he was informed and notified of this resident change out or addition in this case. Emergency management has been moving along nicely. In their report, they alerted us that they're working with the state of Connecticut and filing their Connecticut alerts. They also are working to help the Veterans Hospital in town. There's a low staff condition at the VA right now in terms of nurses and doctors. So they are working with the Capital Region Medical Reserve Corps to fill that gap, and we appreciate that. They provided an emergency incident report for the past snowstorm. There were no incidents from that snowstorm. The COVID Emergency Operations Committee does meet weekly still. And we were notified by emergency management and through the health district report that Rocky Hill will have a pop-up COVID testing center in town. We're just waiting on the exact date. Also, the health district will participate in providing vaccines, inoculations or injections in town and within the health district. But it will be on it's very difficult to administer the tests, meaning that it takes time and per injection, per patient. So they will be starting out small, maybe 10 vaccine doses at a time for selected small groups, following the state guidelines as to who gets the vaccines first, and then slowly developing a procedure whereby they can wrap up the amount of vaccine that they can deliver in a single outing. The health district did report that while cases are on the rise all over the United States and in Connecticut, the confirmed cases in Rocky Hill are 950 from the start of the pandemic to now, and that we did suffer 101 fatalities in total to this juncture. The next public safety meeting will be January 19th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you for the thorough report. Moving on to senior liaison.
Senior liaison has not met since the last council meeting. Our next meeting is Monday night at 5 p.m.
Okay, how about land acquisition and farmland preservation?
Land acquisition and farmland preservation did not meet, but the report to be given at the council from Ray Carpentino is that the farmer at Streska Farm has until January 28th to do what he needs to do. Many folks are asking, when is he going to be off the site? So he has until January 28th as the final deadline. And the town is reported ready to clean out. We already have a clean out step in progress. We need to have all the junk removed before tackling any other activity from a timing point of view, which means no soil remediation. If there needs to be any, no knocking down of the home until, again, the site is clean and clear so we can tackle those additional projects, which will be after January 28th. As far as the barn grant goes, the DECD, we need them, we're waiting for them to send us the assistant agreement for execution. And then there's a host of CHRO and state bidding requirements for the town needs to comply with, but it's moving along that process. The next meeting will be January 19th at 6:15.
Thank you. And then,
and remember, we changed the date of the meeting so it doesn't coincide with the town council and public safety. So I think the next meeting's going to be sometime in January 26th or 27th. I don't have.
Yeah, Chris, do you know the date? I've forgotten the date. We made a decision to move farmland off of the same day as public safety because public safety is using a lot of time. So it's not January 19th.
Yeah, I thought I put it on my, it's a Tuesday. Yeah, I thought I had it on my phone.
January 26th, a Tuesday at 6 p.m.
all right, we'll take that. Okay.
Put it in my phone now.
And we moved the time up a little bit to 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Liaison to the state representative and the state senator.
We had our report tonight from them.
Okay, school liaison, is there a report?
No, Madam Mayor, no report today.
Thank you. Capital Improvements Committee, have you met?
We have not met since the last council meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Economic Development Subcommittee?
Has not met and no meeting scheduled.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So let's go on to the consent agenda. We have one item, which Councilor Greenspan alluded to. It is the approval of the electricity purchasing agreement for town buildings. And I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Your second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Moving to old business, we have one item, discussion, possible action of the Community Senior Center.
Thank you. An update as how the Community Senior Center project stands as of December 21st. Roofing installation is nearly complete on the flat area as the final detailing pending for all the roofs. Soil preparation and compaction continues for paved areas along with the site selection utility installations. The slab infills in the existing buildings are 85% complete. The building does have temporary heat in the associated ductwork that's being utilized. Selected ductwork for the addition has been delivered to the site with the hangers installed and the pieces hung. Framing of interior walls is nearly complete. Exterior sheathing is nearly completed along with the sealing of the joints and masonry work continues on the north and west sides. Plumbing exterior wall rough has commenced. In addition, along with the ceiling roof drain piping. Electrical wall rough continues in the majority of the project. Demolition in the existing gym is nearly completed. Rain screen installation has started on the existing gym wall at the roof. The movable partition track installation has been completed, and the ceiling layout is in process. Completion of the update.
So much better with that sweater on when you give an update.
Really see it. I need to put some lighting on, the track lighting, to talk to Phil tomorrow about getting some.
Thank you. We would appreciate that. Okay, moving on to new business, subsection A, discussion, possible action, award of bid to purchase 65 Walnut Road from the town.
There's a resolution in the packet, basically outlining that the town award the bid of 65 Walnut to Gaetano Rocamora, 86 Fox Hill Drive, for a purchase price of $25,500. And town council authorizes the town manager to execute a purchase and sales agreement and finalize the sale. Within that resolution, there's a report that sort of goes over the history of this piece of property from when it was a house on it that caught on fire that the town ended up razing or demolishing. And eventually the town ended up acquiring the property through various probate court actions as well as a tax sale. So basically the question to the council is, would you like to sell the property for $25,500 to Mr. Rocamora? Most likely he'll put on another house on the property, or does the town want to retain the property? And that's it.
Okay, so we'll put a motion on the table first.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the award of 65 Walnut Street to Guyton Rocamora of 86 Fox Hill Drive for a purchase price of $25,500 and authorize the town manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement and finalize the sale.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Councilor Prakash.
John, how did we get to 25,500? How was that established?
We did a RFP, I think back in March, advertising it in the paper. We had just 2 bids and this was the highest bid for it. The delay is more waiting for the potential buyer to secure title insurance because the way the property was acquired by the town through a tax sale generally, they have to give a year, the title companies like to give a year before issuing title insurance to the buyer, because potentially the prior owner could come back and reacquire the property by paying off all the debts associated with it. But in this case, there wasn't any chance that was going to occur.
So there's basically a process for this. Have you done some of these sales before, John? Like, I mean, again, the other question I had was, is there like a baseline price for these things under the circumstances you described?
I don't know if there's a baseline price. It's just more of you go out to bid to see what the market will bear in this case. And generally the town, it doesn't sell many items. We usually like to spend money. So, there's really no baseline. You're sort of at the mercy of what the market will bear.
And John, go ahead, sir.
No, I was just, thank you, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask John, would you say this is similar to when we have a tax sale where we basically have a property that's no longer contributing to the rolls? So we would try to sell it, recoup some proceeds, but then over time, the town makes its money back by having a tax-paying property back on the rolls for that site. Is it a similar concept?
Yes, yes.
Anything else? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And then moving on, item B is, we move that up, so it's no longer there. Item C, we have funding.
I believe item C was related to the municipal coronavirus relief fund administered by OPM. Last Wednesday afternoon, OPM released the amounts of money from the CARES Act that's remaining in the municipal relief fund. And it was based on a formula that they developed, which also includes the equalized grand list and so on. And so each of the towns was going to receive some portion based on that formula. The town of Rocky Hill is going to get approximately $205,204.05. This resolution is more of a formality, recognizing that the town council realizes that and approves us, the town, to accept this money from OPM. I guess the only reason they do this is it's supposed to be monies used for items related to the virus and so on. So I guess it's their way of saying that if they find numbers, expenses that aren't supported by it, we may have to return it. But I think we can find plenty of expenses to cover this $205,000. So it's recommended that we pass this resolution so that we hopefully we'll be getting our money soon from the state.
Okay, thank you. So is there a motion?
I will make a motion to accept the funding from the Municipal Coronavirus Relief Fund for the July 1st to December 30th, 2020 claim period.
Okay, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Wonderful. And now we will move on to agenda item D, which was the deferment of taxes until April.
Yes, also last Wednesday, the governor released Executive Order 9R, which is very similar to what they did back in July with the July taxes, where they're allowing the January tax payments to have an additional 60-day grace period so that they will not be due until I believe it's April 1st. And the only thing that the needs to be done is the town council would have to accept the same policy it followed in July for the July tax payment with the deferment program, and approve that, and we're finished with this. If the council decides not to go with this, then we would have to notify OPM of the decision to change how we collect the January tax payments. So if the council wants to continue to allow that grace period extension of 60 days, they just need to approve the resolution.
And if I may just add to that, John, the Finance Committee, just so everybody's aware, did discuss this and approve it unanimously on December 17th at our meeting. And this was part of what we did as a very successful program for the earlier tax payment. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that Finance did review, and we confirmed with the town manager and acting finance director that this should not have an impact on the town's ability to pay our debts as they come due. So having said that, I'll make a motion to approve the deferment of tax payments and due and payable on January 1, 2021, extending the date to April 21st, 2021, per Executive Order 9R.
Is there a second?
I think April 1st. Yeah.
I'm sorry, April 1st, 2021. Thank you.
Good catch. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, quickly, let's move on to the mayor's report. So Councilor Sharmat's has already given us the COVID-19 update. So I don't have to talk about that. But I would like to tell you about our gingerbread house challenge really quickly. So Councilor Thoreau and I and Mary Hogan, the director of the library, and Jen Zapola, who works over there, as well as Maria Librio, who is the CEO of Rose Hill Funeral Homes, and graciously sponsored this effort. We got to judge all of the gingerbread houses today, and you'll be able to see the photos and actually a recording of the displays and announcements of the winners. It was really, really impressive to see some of these houses. Some were traditional and some were just huge and very, very detailed. So I want to thank all of you who participated. You will all get, the winners will get a gift card to a local business of your choice, which is our way of giving back to our local businesses during this very difficult pandemic time for them. So a big thanks to Mary Hogan, to her staff for all of the work that they did. They really transformed the library for this event. I would, let's see, let me just tell you very quickly who the winners were, because they deserve some acknowledgement. So in our youth, ages 5 to 12 category, our first place winner was Diti Agarwal. Congratulations. Our second place winner was Jordan Alexander. And our third place winner was Darish Agarwal. In our youth 13 to 18 category, our first place winners were Emma and Loga Simmons. Second place, Lily and Jordan Drapo. Congratulations, kids. In adult, our first place was Punan Agarwal. And our second place was Jordan Swanson. And our third place was Ruth Clapfor. Congratulations to you guys. Couple more. In our group, our first place was the Murphy family. Second place was Rocky Hill Youth Coalition. And third place was the Rocky Hill Police Department. And then finally, in our business, we had a winner. Her name is, or his name, I'm not sure, but it's Sydney Aberbach. And that was from Sunny Farms. And all of these displays are absolutely stunning. You guys have to take a look at the photos. So thank you for participating. We're also starting a new initiative to show community appreciation. And it's going to be called the You Rock Award. And I really couldn't let 2020 go by without acknowledging some really amazing folks in the community who stepped up during the pandemic to provide support for community residents, just out of the goodness of their heart, and then others who just throughout the year really went above and beyond. You really are our rock stars here in Rocky Hill, and so that's why we have now this new Rock Award, which everyone will be getting who is a recipient. So this year, I've chosen 11 very, very deserving recipients who have demonstrated initiative, commitment, and compassion throughout this entire unprecedented year. But what's going to be nice about this initiative is really meant for community involvement. So when we get into 2021, you guys, residents and town employees, will have an opportunity to nominate someone who you think is a rock star. And we have no limit here. And every quarter, we will just recognize these folks and give them thanks and appreciation. So for our winners for this year, we have Charles Brown from the Central Connecticut Health District. I mean, Charles Brown has done an amazing job keeping us safe and also keeping us secure, and knowing all that the hard work that he and his staff, and I know that he wants to acknowledge his staff because they have worked very hard to keep us informed and on track when it comes to responding properly to COVID-19. Thank you so much, Charles Brown. Second is Commissioner Thomas Sadi of the Department of Veteran Affairs, which is, as you know, here in Rocky Hill. The Commissioner Sadi and I are working on increasing our partnership opportunities and collaboration for veterans that are both on campus as well as those in the community. And so I really look forward to that collaboration. But Commissioner Sadi has done a tremendous job keeping us as a council informed of all things happening at the DVA. And we certainly respect him, his service, and all that he does for his community and our community as a whole. Thank you, Commissioner. I want to recognize two folks from Parks and Rec. One is Walt Sykes, and there he is. And for people who don't know Walt is the man who puts everything together that you see happening around town. He works a tremendous amount of hours, and every event he is out there making sure that folks have what they need to put on a successful event, in addition to all of his duties that he has throughout the day. He really is a tremendous worker, and I just wanted to recognize him, as well as Rita Chabra. So Rita Chabra also works for Park and Rec, and there she is. If any of you have signed up for anything, or if you participate in events, or you have interacted with Parks and Rec, then you have interacted undoubtedly with Rita. She is definitely a rock star. She puts so many things together behind the scenes and volunteers a number of hours. And so we just want to express our thanks to Rita. Our next one is James Bellinger. So James Bellinger works for the police department, and he actually generates plans for emergency management operations across town departments. So he has been very instrumental in helping us coordinate services while we navigate the pandemic. And I think I would definitely be remiss if I didn't recognize James for all of his efforts in keeping us informed and moving forward as a unit throughout the pandemic. So thank you so much, James, for your work. Next is Drew O'Connor, who is from the Rocky Hill Volunteer Ambulance. And you see he's got the Santa hat on the ambulance because Drew is the main organizer of Santa Express, which it was a tremendously successful event. And this year, for those of you who may not know, Santa Express couldn't take place the way it typically does because of the pandemic. So the number of hoops that Drew and the Ambulance Association had to jump through to make sure that this was a safe event for everyone involved, not just them, but for the families and the children. They actually moved it to Elm Ridge Park. It was spectacular. It was on the news. And I can't thank him and everyone at the Volunteer Ambulance Association for everything that they do, and especially for their response during COVID-19. Thank you so much. And then a couple more. There is Ed Ciccarello. So Ed is a resident of town, and he is our resident expert in all things trails, walking, hiking, biking. And I'm so excited by his passion, because we're talking at the town level about putting a complete streets project together. And Ed serves on our PIC committee, and he serves, I believe he has the walk, bike, and I don't want to get that title wrong, but I think it's Walk, Bike, Rocky Hill. But nevertheless, he is actively involved in the trails and everything else. And he's probably one of those unsung soldiers who really deserves our recognition. So thank you, Mr. Ciccarello. And then just a few more, Pastor Ron Cox. So Pastor Ron Cox is the Rocky Hill Fire Department chaplain, but he's also our community pastor. He is the one who keeps us united and pointed in the right direction. He is always there for us when things are not so good, to bring us together. And I can't thank him enough for his leadership. Thank you, Pastor Ron. And then a few more folks from the community. We have Lauren Drapeau. And Lauren, if you are watching, you sent a beautiful photo, and for some reason we're having a problem with it. But Lauren is an amazing resident volunteer, and you probably would know her. She's the one who organized the Thank You Essential Workers lawn signs. And that was a fundraiser where money actually went to our food pantry. So there were two things happening just with that one event, which really, helped bring the community together and help us feel like we were contributing in some small way to let our essential workers know how much we care and appreciate them. So we appreciate you, Lauren. Thank you. And then there is Shane Afarismo. I do not have a photo of Shane Afarismo, but I know that many of you probably know him. He's a resident and the business owner. His business is called Scoops and Sprinkles. I chose Shane because he has been extremely generous throughout the pandemic. And not only that, but thinking outside of the box on how to keep his business operating and working with other businesses along the Silestine Highway to hold events and collaborate so that others are able to survive during this tremendously difficult time. And in addition to that, just, inviting the community and having all types of give back to the community, right? So I want to really thank Shane for, all of the stuff that he does and wish him much success. And then three more ladies I want to recognize. I don't know that you know their names, but you certainly know of their efforts. So one woman, her name is Seema. Seema was the organizer of one of the town's largest community mask sewing groups throughout the pandemic. And so she organized all of these folks to sew and provided hundreds of residents with not just peace of mind, but with a means to stay safe with her masks. And we did have a beautiful photo of Seema, and we don't have it, but we will display this through social media and other things. So folks have an opportunity to recognize these photos. And if you see them in the community, to say thank you. And then finally, we have our women who put together what was called Christmas in Spring. This is a picture of Shilpa. So Shilpa Gohil, and then we have Sandhya Raj. And these folks, again, were involved in mask making, but they took it to another level in a different direction. And they would put the masks in the baggies and then put them on the trees. And then they would do these blasts so that people in need anywhere in the community could actually drive up on certain days and take the masks that they needed for their families. And we have to remember that this was at a time when, there were no masks and people were panicking and people didn't know how to make masks. And so it was a tremendous support and relief for so many members in our community. And we thank you ladies very much. And that is it for our first set of recipients. So as you can see, there is no limit in how many people you can nominate in January. And then finally, I just want to touch base on 60 West, right? Because we did hear some reports tonight, and we do hear some folks reaching out, and I believe there was another email, not to go on the record, but that was sent to the town council. And so I just want to reassure all of the residents out there that those folks in town, those departments who were supposed to be put on notice of this move were put on notice, and that we are aware of what's happening, that we have been in communication. I myself have been in communication with the administrator, and we intend to stay on top of this. Nevertheless, I understand how disconcerting it is, and I don't think that anyone wants this to be in their backyard, an issue like this, or necessarily near their schools. But I want to assure you that we are in the information gathering process. We are speaking with experts, and we are making assessments. This is a very new issue. With respect to this one gentleman. It's not a new issue with respect to 60 West Street generally. We know back in the day there was a lot of opposition from residents of the town, and we also know that we exhausted all of our opportunities in court, right? So the courts have spoken, and now we're in this position where folks are upset again. So, we want to be proactive about this. And I think, maybe one of the best things that we should be doing at this time is asking for help, right? And I would make a recommendation at this time that the council consider sending a letter to the governor and saying, this is what's going on in our town. What are your suggestions? How do we work with this? What is the expectation here for the residents? Perhaps, I don't know precisely what that language would look like. I would suggest that we caucus about that, but that we put something together so that we can just show that, there is a big concern by the residents here in town. So I will put that on the table to see if the council wishes to entertain that. Any discussion?
I think we'd be interested in knowing, what is our ask? You had mentioned the history of litigation where the town took the state to the Supreme Court, and unfortunately, there were some aspects that we were successful on, but in terms of having that facility there for that purpose, it appears that it's here to stay. So, what's a reasonable thing that we can ask for, either procedurally or structurally, that might actually work? And I think if we can come up with something, that would probably be a very a useful exercise. Like you mentioned, I don't know that we're going to figure out what that wording is here, but I think that it would be important to just make sure that whatever asking is reasonable. I know the person in the mayor of the town of Medford, where this resident was last, put together a letter that got widely published, but it also is basically just, I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it was complaining about why the person was there in the first place and then trying to get rid of the problem out of their town. I don't think that it actually impacted the situation why that gentleman left, but I think if we're going to do something on behalf of the town, we want to make sure that it's the right message to the right people and that can have an impact. So, I'd certainly be interested in their ideas and what we can do. But we want to make sure it's a meaningful thing and not just, a gesture.
There is a statute, 54-261, which is called, let me get the correct title.
261, Mimi?
261, 54-261, and it's a community response education program.
Yeah.
And it's with, hang on a sec. Trying to get the right information because there's a lot of stuff in the statute. With Court Support Services Division, and they'll come out with the police chief, the executive officers, and so forth, and just talk to the public about what our rights are, what the procedures are, and so forth, of notifications and everything. And we may have done that back, 3-4 years ago, but I think maybe it's appropriate again because it says upon notification. So this is a notification that's getting people up in arms. So it might be a forum where they can get some information and we can engage with some of the state. So that might be an avenue to use.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so I think it's something that we can explore, and if there are some ideas out there, we will put them around. And then finally, I think that's it. So 2020 wasn't the best year for any of us to come into office for the first time. So for those of you who came along with me, thank you. Thank you for staying. And for those of you who have been at this for a while, I know it wasn't easy for you either, but we got through it. And I just want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas if you are celebrating Christmas. But for all of you, a very happy, healthy, and safe 2021. And I will entertain a motion. Oh, no, I will not. Because, let's see, John Mayer in the sweater.
Thank you. Again, just a reminder that the town hall will be closed at 12 on Thursday, and Friday for Christmas will be closed all day. And on New Year's Eve, we'll close at 12, as well as being closed on New Year's Day. The council has only one meeting in January, and it's on the 19th of January. Scheduled to attend is backed by popular request. The MDC will come in and discuss their budget, which Alan sort of mentioned this year, which is going to be kind of a surprise. It's coming in kind of flat. Ad valorem taxes and going up. The clean water surcharges are staying the same, as well as their various other surcharges, just a slight increase in the water bill. So they'll be coming in on the 19th. We have them booked as well. Just a reminder to people that our friends at Simple Recycling, or better known as Pink Bag, has suspended collections due to the COVID situation as of now, and planning on starting it back up hopefully in the spring of 2021. The town has wrapped up its year-end audit, started filing it with the appropriate agencies and so on. We're waiting for the auditors to send out our printed copies. So hopefully before December 25th, copies will be sent to the town, and we can send it out to the town councilors so that they can have it be part of their holiday celebration, put it under the tree, something to look forward to and read during the Christmas holidays. And I wish everyone a happy holiday, and I won't see you get people again, so and everyone a happy new year. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
John, it's garbage delayed one day this week and next week, or no?
Most likely, yes, because it could be delayed a little longer. Will probably be all picked up probably on Saturday due to probably the Murrah plant is probably closed on Friday. They'll probably pick up on Saturday.
Thank you.
Anyone
Everybody,
else?
Wonderful holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy everything. Be safe and well.
Thank you.
Happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
So
Safe,
move
everyone.
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah, good night, everybody. See you
Take
next
care.
year.